Welcome. Welcome back to my channel Conquer the Fear. Ever have you been stuck up with a software that might be a nightmare to change? Or have you seen your microservices becoming the just as complicated as the monolith system? Now imagine if your code could be easily handled a new demand, whatever is coming, your career could really take off, highly sought after, and that's what separates you. Small services actually work together without constant headaches. Now this isn't going to be a dream. It is the power of hexagonal art. Now think of it like a building a house. Clear separation between living space of yours is going to have your important business logic, and you can map it with the outside world, which is like your databases, your web interfaces. Now this approach is going to ensure your core system is going to stay clean, easy to test. Now no matter what your tech you are going to plug into it, like whatever technology you use, it is ultimately going to create a robust, adaptable, and future-proof application. So if you are ready to build the software that is going to truly last, watch this video till the end and understand the whole hexagonal architecture which is related to the microservices. Now let's discuss about what exactly the hexagonal architecture is about. Hexagonal architecture is also known as the port and the vector. So it is an architectural style or pattern. It is going to create a highly decoupled and a testable application. So this was introduced by a guy, Alistair Cockburn, in 2005. The very core essence or core idea is to isolate the business logic, your important business logic, that is the domain, from your external concerns. Like you have user interfaces, you have databases, you have external APIs, the messaging systems. So that's where it is a clear separation which has to be taken in consideration. Okay. Now we'll look into what exactly the hexagonal architecture is about. Okay. Now imagine you have your core business logic as an hexagon. Now imagine yourself what exactly the architecture is about. So this hexagon has got multiple faces, or it has got different sides, I would say. So each of this is going to represent either a port through which your application is going to interact with the outside world. Now these ports are essentially some interfaces that are going to define the operation. Core application can perform or either require some external systems, right? Now around this hexagon, you'll see some adapters as well. Now these adapters can be some concrete implementations of the ports which already discussed, and it is going to act as a bridge between these core application. Now you have some special external technologies, right? So they can be split between them. Now the key principle is dependency inversion. Okay. Now the core business logic that is not going to depend on any specific external technology. So instead, the external technology is going to depend on the interface itself defined by the core. Okay. I hope you got the particular essence of hexagon architecture, what exactly it is. Now let's discuss about what are the core components when it comes to the hexagon architecture. Now, first we'll discuss about the domain, the application core itself, the hexagon what we discussed in the architecture. Okay. Now this is going to be the heart of your application. It will contain all the business logic rules, your entities, your value objects, and the use case. So this is completely an independent entity or an external framework. Like you have your databases, your UI, your external services. So the focus should be on solving your domain problems. Okay. Typically, when you have this particular layers, so these are going to include your domain entity, your service entity, domain, and then we'll discuss about the use case as well. So what exactly the domain entity is about? It is an object which is going to represent your business concept. Let's say you have your product as a core business entity, or you have an order or whatever, right? So that's a core entity, whatever you now then there is a service. Okay? Now you have certain logic, business logic that is going to be having the particular operational work that is to be done for the multiple entities. Okay? So that is going to communicate or do the activities for you. So that is what the service is about. Now let's take a look at the use cases or where particular application services can be applied. So now you have some, actual actions or the functionality of your application, so which you want to offer to your outside world. Let's say you want to create some product use cases, you want to place some order. Now this is going to orchestrate your flow of data, and it is going to delegate your domain service. That's where the exact is about. Now let's discuss about the ports. Okay, so this is the second part. Now this is also called an interface. Now ports are nothing but an abstract interfaces that is going to be the interaction point between the application core, that is your application core, and then to the outside world. Now they are defined within the cores. There are two main types of ports. First is the primary port, and the second is the secondary port. Now let's first look at the primary port, which is either called as an driving port, or we can also denote it as an inbound port. Now these are the interfaces that the outside world is uses to drive or interact with the application. Okay, the outward is going to communicate with the inward thing. So they represent the applications that are exposed to functionalities. Okay, example, you have some product services or it is going to define some create product, let's say the buy product ID, etc. The primary adapter is going to be the REST controller CLI command, which will which will call this particular instances. Now let's look at the second port, that is one port, or like I would say the output port. So which is like these are the interfaces that the application's core uses to interact with the external system. Now the core which is going to drive these particular ports to get something done external. Example, you have some product repository port. Now you are going to define some C, find by ID, this kind of things, right? Let's say you have a payment gateway port, so you will define the process payment. The secondary adapter, what it discuss, can be anything like the GPA repository implementation. You have the REST price implementation, which is going to actually implement those interfaces. Okay. Now let's move on to the third thing, that is the adapter over here. Now this is the actual implementation. Now we already discussed about the interfaces. Now we are going to discuss about the adapter. Now this is going to be the exact concrete implementation of the particular ports. Now they are going to reside outside your hexagonal architecture, and this is going to be the actual way where they are going to communicate, translate your communication between the external technologies of the system to the core defined interfaces. Okay. Now there are two types of adapters. One is the primary adapter and the second is adapter. Now again the primary adapter is going to be the inbound adapter. Now this is going to implement the primary ports. Now they receive the input from the external actors, like there are some users or the other system outside, and they are going to translate it into the calls of primary ports. Example, you have your at the rate hash controller classes, right? You have this particular command line interface. You have message lists. These are the examples of the inbound. Now, secondary adapter or the outbound adapters, they are going to be the implementation of the secondary port. Now they can do something like they can connect the application code to some specific external systems like database is there, message broker is there. You have some third party APIs. So example, you have some Spring Data JPA repositories, REST templates, clients, Kafka producer and the consumer. So these are the examples. Now, as we have discussed what are the core systems over here, let's dig into why this hexagonal structure is required. Now, hexagonal architecture or its kind of shape that is a metaphor for. Okay, so what exactly it denotes is that it has got four multiple and equal sides, allowing it to driven or drive the external components to various needs. It's not just a single UI or a database. Okay, there are a number of hexagon. It means not to be the perfective type, but you can have as many of them as you can, like there can be many ports and adapters as your application requires. Okay, so just a convention type of. Now we'll discuss when to use this particular architecture. Okay, so hexagonal architecture particularly is one of the beneficial for those kind of applications which has got very high complex business. Now, now what happens is that it's going to very clearly separate your business logic. It's going to make your code easier to understand. It is easier to manage and evolve as the application grow. So, this is what the complex applications have inside. So, it is going to be beneficial for using the hexagonal architecture. Now, there are some applications which require high testability. So, when you're isolating the domain, okay, so you can unit test your business rules without needing to spin up your database, your web server, or any external services. So, simply you can mock those particular ports over. Now, you have the see you want some infrastructure to make some changes. Now, let's say you see some switching between the database. Let's say from relational database, as now the world is moving to NoSQL. You want some changes, right? You're changing in the UI framework. You are integrating with the different external services. Now, hexagonal architecture is going to make this particular changes very significantly easier by confining them to the adapter layer. So now this is one of the I think the play will play a bridge around that, right? So you can plug into any adapter or any kind of implementation. You doesn't need like when you have this particular multiple ways to interact. If in your application, let's say you are driving your web UI, your API, you have command interfaces, you have message queues. Now in this way, external architecture is going to allow you to plug and play with different primary adapters without altering your core business logic. Now, this particular hexagonal architecture is going to promote the domain-driven design. This is one of the design patterns of microservices that is completely ensure that your domain model is truly associated and isolated with the central of your application. Okay. I hope I was able to explain when to use this particular application. Now we'll discuss about where to use this particular. Now, if you are designing a microservice, let's say it is very ideal for your microservice because each services is going to encapsulate certain business logic or certain business capabilities, and you need to have this particular independent services to communicate and be persistent across the mechanism. So, in that case, when you are having a microservice application, you definitely need to take advantage of this particular hexagonal. Now, let's say you have some enterprise application. Let's say you have a large application, long-term application, constantly evolving according to the business rules and to the changing business technology plans. Right? In that case, you might require this technology architecture. Then you have the application with multiple interfaces. Let's say when you want to expose your application functionalities through various channels. Let's say you have your web model, you have your mobile application, your APIs exposed, you have some batch processing happening on the background. In that case, you can take advantages of this. Now you want to, let's say your application wants to be having a high test, right? Now your project was kind of automated, especially when you wanted to have this particular unit test cases, integration test case, then this is going to be the high priority to use it. Okay. Now video is about the part one. Okay. Now I would be coming up with the actual implementation part. So there in this video we have only discussed about the theoretical part, what exactly the hexagonal architecture is about, when to use it, why to use it. Okay. Now we discussed this. Now we are going to next we are going to discuss about hexagonal, how to use that using with the help of spring boot. Okay. So please subscribe to the channel and wait for that video to come. I will be shortly placing that video in some time. So if the video was helpful to understand what hexagonal architecture is about, please do share it with the needy people. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thank you for watching.